to extreme like that, and you're going to extreme in a faster and faster way, what happens? It becomes more dangerous, doesn't it? And I'm just saying, guys, this is the world you're living in. I don't care what it is. Look at what's happening, and you're going to see swings to wider extremes on everything. And then the ricocheting from one side to the other is going to happen faster and faster. And when you're interacting with people, they're going to be trying to put you in a position that's going to be more and more extreme and more polarizing. The second thing is uncertainty. The world is becoming increasingly unpredictable. Nicholas Taleb wrote a book called The Black Swan. I would encourage you to read that. The Black Swan really came from a phrase that when settlers went to Australia for the first time, they found something that they had never seen before, and they never thought was possible. And that was a swan that wasn't white, but that was black. And so, what he was representing there was that there are certain things that in our mind, that could never happen. And yet that happens, and it changes everything about what you see. And what we're seeing in the world right now is more and more the prevalence of unpredictable things hitting us and happening that we could have never predicted. Some are natural, whether it's a Hurricane Katrina or a 9/11. But what we're going to have is that we're not going to be in this kind of smooth, predictable world anymore. More and more, we're going to see things that we just never thought would happen that are unknown. And yet, most of our training, most of our education is predicated on taking the lessons of the past and extrapolating out of the future. And I tell everybody that I work with on strategy that the past is no longer an indicator of future success. And so as you're thinking about this, we're going to live in a world of uncertainty, and it's going to get more complex. You think about the interrelationships that are caused by the internet now. And so outages in India can affect internet service in the United States. There's going to be more and more chaos. And on top of that, there's going to be more and more ambiguity. You're going to be living with dilemmas, trilemmas, multi-lemmas. And anybody that thinks, this is just a problem that we have to solve, is fooling themselves. And yet we have a lot of very analytical, engineering-minded people that says, here's the problem, just solve this thing. Just pump money in. That'll solve it. And then we have a whole host of other problems that result from that too, because they don't understand that the dilemma that their solutions really exist within. So, what's the experience of living through VUCA? Well, when it comes to volatility, what people are feeling is these things. One is an urgency to act and react. Every time something swings, everybody does that. The market starts going up. Everybody starts saying, we got to buy, just as the market goes down, right? And so they're always reacting, and our lives are reacting. And from a business as well as a ministry standpoint, what happens is that we just begin to offer more stuff. Products, services, advices. We're trying to chase the needs over here and the needs over there. And we're always chasing, but we're always too late. And what happens is that everything that we're doing is increasing the volatility. When I was a student, I was down in Houston at a part of the summer training program, and one of the jobs that I got was I was just doing construction work. And because I wasn't afraid of heights, and the safety regulations weren't that great in those days, they had me go up on top of the roof, where we were laying the roof joists over, but right now we had to kind of decide the framing of the wall. So I was walking along on top of this 2x4, no safety or anything else like this. And apparently something was wrong with the foundation. And so when I got about halfway out on about a 20-foot span, this wall started going like this. And then every time I tried to adjust for it, what do you think happened? The oscillation increased even more, right? And then I'm looking around thinking, what am I going to do? And fortunately, it had really been raining a couple of days person of purpose can still see through all the dust and know where they're going. If you don't know that every gust of wind is going to take you somewhere else. So more than ever